Hello everyone. I welcome you all on behalf of Naukri Learning. Thank you all for joining us today on a Saturday evening for this live session. So we at Naukri have realized that a huge number of professionals face different challenges after a certain point in their career. And one of the very common but crucial concern is a mid-career break. And our discussion for today is going to revolve around the same subject. Through the unique association of Naukri learning and conscious career choices, we will try our best to help you out in this decision making journey of yours. With great pleasure, I introduce our esteemed speakers for today, Anita Sachdeva and Harsh Johari. They both are established leadership and career coaches. Anita has more than 3 decades of work experience and she's a certified PPC award winner. While Harsh is a four-time TEDx speaker and has more than 26 years of diverse experience professionally. And they both will be throwing some light on the factors and impacts of the decision to take a mid-career break today. So before we start, let me remind you all that you need to post your questions in the chat box below, and the Q&A will be happening at the end. And some of the questions that you have shared during the registration process will be addressed throughout the session. Also, don't forget to visit the link of the course in the description box. And so, without any delay, let's get started. And over to you, Anita and Harsh.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Niharika and Naukri Learning, for the opportunity to share our knowledge and experience to support career dreamers and pathfinders. So let's talk about today. And let's start at the beginning. Career progression today has a new definition. Reskilling, upskilling is a need of the hour. Higher rate at which people are changing jobs, and the gig freelance economy is booming. So to keep up with the new trends, let's address the elephant in the room. What should one do when change is a new normal? Adopting the new ways of working, leadership, and demands on your role have changed since the pandemic and continue to escalate. So what do we do then? So therefore, it is more important even now to manage our career consciously and making choices intentionally and deliberately. As simple as that. So what does this mean? It also can mean slowing down to pick up speed later. It also can mean examining your strengths, values, passions. What else can it mean? This all requires deliberate thinking to determine if you are on the right path, to step ahead with design as opposed to saying, let's see what happens. How do you find the time and space to manage yourself and your career with a full-time job and personal responsibilities is a question that everyone's asking. So we are going to spend some time together. So let's take some time to get to know you on the chat. Could you tell us your name, your industry that you work in, your city, anything that you like to say about yourself? We'll give you about 30 seconds. Well, career stories the world over are a mix of drama, ups and downs, emotion, tears, fears, success, failures. It's like a Bollywood film, and we all have our own. And that generally includes the dreaded dilemma: take a professional career break, or a study career break, or a personal career break. And sometimes breaks are forced upon us by circumstances like COVID, or mergers, or situation in the family. So let's take my career journey for an example. I started my career in advertising, and then I moved to London, and then to Egypt, a country that I had never worked on before. I've been talking in the 80s. And I had to work take some breaks just to learn some new things about countries. And as I continued to move from one country to another, which is from uh, London to Egypt, Egypt to Dubai, Dubai to New York, and then to Canada, every time I moved, there was something that had to be learned so that I could move forward in my life. And sometimes it was a professional break, sometimes it was a study career break, and sometimes it was a personal career break. So I could regroup and start again. So that's my story. What is yours, Harsh?
Yeah, thanks, Anita, for sharing your story, and thank you all for joining us today. So my story is very similar, having a diverse professional background and diverse career trajectories. I started my career in the merchant navy, uh, which is really working on ships. I joined the shipping industry as a cadet, and over the next 15 years, I was sailing on ships, traveled to different parts of the world, and eventually became a captain. So that was my first career in the shipping industry out at high seas. Then in 2009, I actually took a break. I quit sailing and then I went back to college. So it was a very intentional decision to quit my job, go back to pursue higher education. And I did my MBA. And that break and that higher education allowed me to switch my jobs from shipping into finance. I got an offer with an investment bank as well. I was graduating from my MBA program. And I moved my industry completely from shipping and logistics to finance. And for the next 9 years, I was actually working in the financial services industry. It was something very new to me. I had never worked in financial sector before. And then in 2019, I again took a break. I actually quit my corporate career and I took a break to start my entrepreneurial journey. So I've had two very major career breaks, and every time that break allowed me to change the trajectory of my career from shipping to finance to being an entrepreneur, a coach, and a facilitator. So that's my story. And for all those who joined us today, if you look at our stories between me and Anita, these stories have certain common threads, common themes, common learnings for us. One, these breaks allowed us to intentionally pause and reflect how far we have come and where we want to go. So we use that time to pause and reflect. The second, it allowed us to pursue a passion, things which we were interested in. Third, it allowed us to become more resourceful, right? We were able to connect back to our own selves. We were able to spend time with family. We were able to spend time within a social circle, in a community. So that helped us to sort of bring that balance back in our lives. And finally, these breaks actually helped us to change the trajectory of our careers. It allowed us to sort of get into careers which we had not thought about, right? We use these breaks to expand our network, to upskill ourselves. And then eventually these breaks created sort of a realm of possibilities which we had never thought of, right? So that is how the breaks really worked for us. Now the key question all of you would have is that, should I take a career break or not? And the answer to that is a yo, which is a combination of a yes or no. And the reason for that is a career break is very contextual and situational only to you. Only you know where you are today in your career, what is your family situation, what is your financial situation, what is your health situation, how satisfied or happy you are in career, and so on and so forth. So only you know exactly your situation. Me and Anita do not know. So it's very contextual to you. Now, does that mean a career break is mandatory? No, it is not. It is not mandatory. There are a lot of people who do not take career breaks, and there are a lot of people who have leveraged career breaks to change trajectory of their careers. So that is why, in fact, we have brought all these learnings together, all experience into a program which we have designed only for you. It's called the Conscious Career Choices Program. The link will be shared with you in the comment section. It's a program we are bringing in partnership with Naukri Learning. It's a fully online program, completely free. All you need to do is go and click the link, register, and start your learning. And that program can help you take a pause, reflect, and discover new career options. Anyway, that's aside. So just go have a look at the program. But we'll take a pause and just see how many of you are considering a career break at this point of time. Can you type in the chat box? If you're considering a career break, can you type yes? If you're not considering career break, can you type no? We'll just wait for 30 seconds to see what is on your mind right now. Type yes if you're thinking of a career break, and type no if you're not thinking of a career break. Let's see what people are responding.
We have Harish who says yes.
Yes.
We have Jayashri who says yes. Tanya, yes. Pallavi,
So a lot of you are considering the break. Some of you are saying
Kumar is saying not sure.
Some of you are unsure. A lot of you are considering a career break. So let's address the doubts you have in mind through this workshop today, right? The first question, obviously, all of you would have is that, how do I know that I need a break? So what are the trigger points? So Anita, what in your opinion are the trigger points one should look for or think of when they're thinking of a career break?
I think just about anything in life, our circumstances, our body, our consciousness gives us signals. We have deep intuition, but sometimes we don't pay attention to it. And the triggers are always there. There is something that's always nudging you, but we don't pay attention. So here are some triggers that we'd like you to just check in with yourself. For example, do you feel stuck? Does it seem like good things happen to other people, but never to you? Do you often listen to the negative voice in your head when it declares, I can't do that? Do you see and feel stagnancy in your job and your life? Confused with choices or don't know what direction to take? Plateaued in your role and don't see an upside? Tired of the routine, don't have a vision of your future? Here are some of the triggers. And these are not all. There are some emotional triggers as well. Emotions that show up are anxiety, stress, worry. Well, how do I feel? And you're unsure about not feeling any joy in your life. Maybe you give up your personal interests and passions and hobbies because you're not kind of motivated. Your morale is down. It's probably a low energy. And all these are also triggers. So which of these resonate with you? If you were thinking of a career break, what is your main trigger? Could you type it in the chat box, please? Thank you.
So for all those who have said yes for a career break, can you type what is the trigger you have, right? Are you stuck in your job? Are you feeling stagnancy? Do you see your career not growing? So what is that is making you consider a career break? Can you type in the chat box, what is your trigger? All those who are considering a career break.
Tanya says stress.
Okay.
Harish stays stagnant. Pallavi says fulfilling my potential. So Pallavi, how does that make you feel? Not being able to fulfill your potential. Vaidya says meaningful work unleash creativity. That's an outcome. But what is the trigger for you to take a career break? I understand it's meaningful, but is there something that you're not doing that's meaningful and that is not allowing you to unleash creativity?
Tanya
long work hours. Oh,
cool.
Yeah, that's a good one, Tanya. Long work hours. So Vaidya, are you doing less meaningful work, uncreative work, and what's that causing you? Pallavi saying, I feel constrained and under-optimizing. Cool. And when you feel constrained and under-optimizing, how do you respond to it emotionally? Vaidya says yes to what I had said earlier. Okay, good, thank you. Harsh, over to you. Let's talk about why people don't take a career break.
Sure, thanks. So a lot of you have given your triggers. What is the trigger point why you're considering a break, but you're still not taking that decision, right? So let's address the question, why are people not taking career breaks? The first thing is lack of awareness, right? Lack of awareness that career break can actually help you progress in your career in the long term, because it's not a norm, right? Normally, when you graduate, when you do your engineering, medical, whatever you have studied, you immediately join a job. And from that point onwards, you are just hopping from one job into another, right? So you are just moving jobs, and taking a career break is not a norm. It's never been told to you that yes, you can take a break and it will help you. So that is the first thing, right? Lack of awareness. And for a lot of people who know that career break could help, I think sometimes the social angle plays in, right? Because if somebody asks you, what are you doing? And you say, I'm a break, I'm not doing anything, that has some sense of social taboo attached to it, right? It's not considered something very normal in a lot of cultures and society. So that could be another reason, right? There's a lot of social pressure or social stigma attached to the fact that you are on a break or you want to take a break, and that's why you want to avoid it. But even still, if you, some of you still consider a break as something you want to do, I think there are two main reasons which stop people. One is, which is probably the biggest one, is financial insecurity. And the second is getting back into work, right? Will I get a job once I take a break or not, right? So those two things, let's address both these things, right? Financial insecurity, let's all accept that it's a real fear people have, right? Because when you're on a break, you will not be getting any salary, and you will have expenses still in your household, right? So there is that fear that how do I manage my finances? Now I have a few things to say, right? One is, a lot of you would be waiting for a time. You will be thinking that there would be some point in my life when I'll have enough money in my account, and that is the time I'll take a break. Again, based on our experiences, that time never comes, because life would happen to you. Life will keep on throwing different challenges. So you may never reach that point that you have enough money and then you can say, I will relax and I'll take a break. So that time will never come. So waiting for the right time will never work for you. That's the first thing. Now, why it doesn't work for you? The core reason, I think the hidden reason for this is that we never plan, we never budget for a break. We budget for everything in our life. We budget for going for a vacation, we budget for buying a car, we budget for buying a home, we budget for going for education, we budget for marriage. We plan for it, we save for it, but we never budget for a break. And when we never budget for a break, it always looks like it's a surprise. It's an uphill task that where will I get the money from, right? But all these things which I mentioned, whether it's education, vacation, marriage, any other expense, major expense in your life, it doesn't happen on its own, right? You have to plan and budget for it. So think from this angle, that if I have to take a break, how can I plan for it? It may not happen now. You could think of a break 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, 3 years, whatever timeline you have in mind. But how can I plan for a break, knowing that there will be financial insecurity at that point? So can I save to help me in that situation? So planning and budgeting becomes essential before you make that decision, because then it takes the finance out of the equation. Otherwise, finance will always be a dependency, that I will never have enough finances to take a break. So how can you remove finance out of the decision making process? I think that's the first thing, right? Second thing is, will I get a job back or not? And that's again a genuine fear and anxiety people have, right? Now, please remember, when you take a break, it is not about getting a job. You already have a job, so you can continue in that job. So break is not about getting a job. A career break is always to discover and find a career of your choice, the job which you always wanted, or the job you want. That is what a career break is for. It is not to get any job, because you already have a job. If you just want to change job, you can continue working and continue searching for jobs outside, and you may be able to change jobs. But that's not the point. The point is you take a career break to intentionally think, okay, what is that I want to do next in my career? And can I plan and work towards achieving that, right? So that's what the break is all about. So what can you do during career break, whether it's upskilling, networking, finding what you're truly passionate about, finding your interest, all these you can do to really align whatever actions you take, whatever decisions you take during that break, so that you inch towards your goal of finding that career. So it's never about finding any job, it's about finding the right job, and that career break can actually help you move into that direction. So let's take a pause and come back to financial question, right? I want you to put in the chat box, if you have to remove the financial dependency out of the equation, what do you think you need to do? How can you plan your finances better if you have to take a break? Can you just think about it and type your responses in the chat box? You may not be having finances now, but what can you do to plan for it, so that at some point in the future you can take a break? Can you think of something which comes to your mind, or how can you do better financial planning? Let's just wait for a few responses to come in. I think people are still thinking through it, but you can take this point as back, right? I need to budget for my career break. I have to plan for it. It is not going to happen. So I think that's a key message we want to give you back, saying there is financial insecurity, but I need to plan for it. There is the fear of not getting a job, but the very fact that I'm not in the right job is the reason why I'm taking a break. So just take that point back. And that's why, again, I think what we mentioned earlier, we have a specific program designed for you. We'll share the link in the chat box. Do enroll for that. It's an online program, free program, and that can help you find what is the right career for you. So do make sure you enroll for that and join the program. But let's discuss some of the pros and cons of break, right? Anita, what do you think are some of the benefits of taking a career break?
Yeah, before I go there, I just thought that a couple of people have responded talking about they need, like Tanya said, she can focus on budgeting and investing. Jayashree said focus on savings. Pallavi about lower expenses. And Vaidya says that I have planned on a career break now since 2 months. It's going well in terms of upskilling, but still not sure should I go back to corporate or work for myself. Well done, Vaidya. So well done, Vaidya. Yes, so there are different, this is like the first step. As Harsh said, we really got to think, if I had to take finance out of the equation, how could I still move forward? And our program can help you work on that. Yeah, I can help you take it deeper into that. Should you go back into the corporate world or start your own? We've been able to help a lot of folks exactly who were in that particular dilemma. So what are the advantages? So the first one is bring back balance in your life, in different aspects of your life. See, if you're working from morning to night and there's a travel time, today there isn't travel time, but companies are using the fact that you don't have travel time to take on all your life right now. So there's a wheel of life which takes care of your fun, entertainment, family, spiritual, physical, the whole 9 yards, and see life holistically and take a pause, take a breath. It helps to connect back with fun. See, the more we have fun with life and ourselves and our families and friends, the more we will do the things we love creatively. I know somebody said they wanted meaning, they want creativity. Yes, that will happen. So once you evaluate your life, you probably pick the hobby you left behind, do things which make you happy. And that kind of seeps into giving you the clarity you need. Then allow time, space to reflect, learn new things, and see how far you've come. The nicest part is that we look at our careers or our life as broken. What happened 2 years ago, 4 years ago, job one, job two, job three. But life is one long continuum. And in that continuum, if you see how far you've come, you would have take that pause and say, oh my God, I've got so much. This is who I am. And it gives you freedom, it gives you direction and clarity, and you'll be able to regain confidence. There's a lot more self-care and focus on family. I know there's a lady who mentioned here that she's taking a break because she wants to be with her son. That is taking care of herself and her family. Probably will have some more solutions on how she could manage that later on. And the best one is to network and upskill. When we're working 9 to 5 or 9 to 9, the chances to be able to talk and be a thought leader in the industry is reduced. You get time to write blogs, you could connect with some CEOs of companies, have some conversations, have some online coffee, and get people to know you, the person that you are. And there are so many people on the group here right now who have 10 to 12 years of experience. They need to go to the next level, and that happens through networking. Of course, and education, a lot of people take a break, like 2 years, like Harsh did, I did. I went to NYU in New York, I went to University of Toronto. So every time I wanted a break, I did take a study break or a pause, like I said earlier. And then it's about planning and making life happen consciously, as opposed to life happening to you. And this is the pause that we all need. Is life happening to me? Am I struggling on a daily basis to climb the ladder, or I am making life happen? Am I in control or am I not in control? When we talked about the triggers, here are some of the advantages when you have the triggers. All these aspects that are untouched and uncovered and unrealized in your life start showing up, and they're saying, talk to us, look at us, express yourself holistically. And this will give you wider lens, discover your passion, open new possibilities. You become a possibilitarian, as I call it. And you can grow in your career in the long run. As Harsh said, you will find the job, the career. So I can share with you when I took a career break. I moved from Canada to India, and at age 55, and I had a comfortable life, six-figure income, and had my business as a leadership coach, and as well as did facilitation and training. And I decided to come back to India after 25 years. Now that was a break. But how did I use the break? I said, I've come back to India after so many years. I need to take a sabbatical. I get to know India. So I traveled in India. I observed how people worked in the corporate life in India. I'm an interculturalist. I do a lot of cross-cultural work. And I said, how could I support the foreigners or the expats, leaders coming to India to be global leaders and to work in India effectively? This is what I did in Canada too. So I decided and accepted that I have to take a sabbatical because India was a new country for me now, and I had to integrate into it once again. And people were not necessarily very accepting because I look Indian, I can talk the Hindi language, but my thinking was Western. And how would I integrate that and hybrid working strategies and so on and so forth. And I grew as a person. I made some great friends in India, which I didn't have. I mean, I had a few before. I developed relationships. I became a speaker in different forums, and I wasn't even working at that time. So I allowed that pause to grow myself into a country and grow into being Indian and understanding India again. So Harsh, you want to share what you did in your career break?
Yeah, sure. So the first break I took, as I said, it was in 2009, and some of you may recollect 2009 was a peak of the subprime mortgage financial crisis, the Lehman Brothers crisis at that point of time. So it was not an easy time to take a break. It was not an easy time to leave a well-paying, well-settled job and sort of go back to higher education. So I utilized that time to actually upskill myself through a higher education program. I enrolled for the MBA, but it was not just MBA, right? It allowed me to look at life very holistically, because for 18 years of my life, I was in the shipping industry and sailing on ships. So when you're sailing on ships, for a large part of your life, you are disconnected from what is happening in the world. Right? So that break actually allowed me to connect back with what is happening on shore, what is happening in the corporate world. What are different sort of industry leadership trends happening, right? Which I was not aware, because I was primarily spending time on ships sailing between oceans. And that break actually allowed me to reconnect back to the world. It allowed me to learn a lot of things, how to present myself, even how to have simple things, how to have group discussion, how to give a formal interview. I had never done the formal interview before because it was never needed, right? And so there's a lot that happened, and all this allowed me to gain a position into financial services industry, which I had never thought of, right? So it allowed me to also relook at my own potential very differently. Like I never knew that I am good in numbers. And when I joined my MBA program, I realized that I'm really good in finance, but I had never studied finance. But it was very interesting to me, and I enrolled in a lot of financial electives so that I can learn about finance. So it allowed me to change my career, right? And the second time when I switched jobs, when I started my entrepreneurial journey, that break again allowed me to take a pause, because I had done working on ships, I'd done a corporate job. What next in my career? And it could have been working in another industry, it could be working for a bigger bank, it could have been various options, but I said no, something more to it, right? So I took a break for about 3 months after quitting my job to just to reclaim and rejuvenate, because that corporate job was quite intense. And then actually thinking through what is the next thing in my career. And once I had some clarity, how to upskill myself, to prepare myself to network outside, to start my journey. So I think that both these breaks allowed us, both of us really to pause, to reflect, plan, and reconnect back to ourselves, right? So I think those are some really huge advantages of breaks which people don't consider. Again, I said a break is not necessarily meant for everyone, but those who are planning, there are huge benefits. But while we talk about benefits, there are a lot of sort of cons to it, right? There are sort of disadvantages, and I want to share some of those. Some of these are intuitive, you may know it, but it's important to reiterate, right? We spoke about financial insecurity, which comes with taking a break, and that's a reality, that's a fact. Whether it is loss of income, whether it is a need to manage your expenses, whether it might mean you are dipping into saving, whatever it is, there is a financial impact. And as I said, you have to plan for it. Getting a job back or the job may take time, right? It is not, you don't know when it will happen. So you have to be prepared for that, right? So there is a break which you will take, and there's a time duration which you will spend in finding the next career for you, finding the next job, right? So you have to make sure you factor that into account. Now, sometimes it may happen that, especially when you're trying something new or you're joining a new industry or a new function, you may not get the job at the same level, level or the salary at which you left. And you have to be mentally prepared for that, especially if you're doing something new, that I might have to take a hit before I bounce back. Sometimes it could happen that, look, especially if the financial worry becomes too much, then it can build a lot of anxiety, stress in you, especially if you're not landing your next offer or next opportunity in the timeline you had envisioned, right? So that can create a lot of anxiety in you, and you have to be prepared to handle that. We spoke about social stigma, right? So handling, how do you answer questions to people, relatives, friends? Okay, what are you doing? I'm not doing anything, I'm on a break. How do you handle that comfortably? You don't have to convince everybody, but how do you actually respond to those questions is something you have to be prepared for. Sometimes it may happen, right, that you've done everything, you planned everything, but you're still not landing your next opportunity, and that could sometimes lead to probably lack of confidence, lower morale, and you may start doubting your decision itself, right? No, this was not the right thing to do, right? I should have not taken a break. So that could also sometimes happen. So just be aware of these disadvantages. Now, the good news is that a lot of corporates are now very open to returnship opportunities, not just for women, but men also, right? Companies like Tata, Infosys, HSBC, a lot of companies are now looking to bring back professionals who are on a break for a variety of reasons, and they have a lot of these returnship programs. So if you are not aware of that, do make sure you search for those returnship programs, and you can leverage those to come back to work. The second thing is, actually, today there's a lot more freelancing opportunities available, right? A lot of gig opportunities available, which was not there earlier on. So a lot of companies are open to freelancing work instead of full-time employees. So that's also an option you can explore, when you want to reintegrate back to work, or if financial insecurity is playing too much in your mind. So there are options available today, much more than that used to exist. But obviously, all this needs to be planned, that there has to be a very conscious and deliberate plan for a career break. Now, the next question people may have is, how long should a break be, right? Now, before I move to Anita, I want to ask all of you who have joined us today, can you type in the chat box, what in your opinion is the right duration of a break? If you had to take a break, how long would that be? Can you just type whatever comes to your mind? Let's see some responses from people. How long do you think you should plan for a break? 1 month, 2 months, 3 months? What is the timeline you have in mind? Again, there's no right or wrong answer. It is only you know what break you need and how long it should. But what is the timeline you have in mind? Let's get some time for people to respond. Okay, while people think of it, while people plan for it, Harish says 2 years. Okay, Vedya says 3 to 6 months. Okay, Ram says 1 to 2 years. And you'll find all of you have a different thinking, different view of the break, and that's perfectly fine, right? As I said, it is very situational, it is very contextual. You know your situation better than anybody else. So whatever timeline you're thinking is coming from where you are seeing it, not necessarily anyone's opinion, and there's nothing right or wrong here, right? So cool. So Anita, I'll hand over to you to discuss this one final question: how long should a break be, and how should a person think about the duration?
Okay, great. It's always a conundrum because time is infinite, and it's like Harsh said, it's what you think is correct and what is it that your intuition is telling you. If you've planned, then life is the Like I planned my break to come into India for at least 2 years. And I thought if I don't work for 2 years, I have enough to survive, not survive, actually to live. And so I planned it. I planned everything. And then I moved here. And so I had freelancing opportunities at the same time in Canada and US. And I continued that work. So, so therefore, the question to ask yourself from what I see is if you're taking 3 months, it's a pause. You press the pause button for a 2 months or 3 months. When you want a sabbatical, it's say, I'm going to take 6 months off from work, and companies around the world are actually giving people that time off. Because when they come back with new ways of doing work. They come back and reinventing how they could support the organization. Obviously, the company values their as an employee to give them a sabbatical. They want to go fishing, they want to go chill, but they know when they get back, they will offer triple the value they're offering today. And the deliberate break can be because of family reasons. It can be because you want to take that pause and say, I've done this for 10 years. I don't want to do this anymore. That deliberate break, again, as we talked earlier, has to be at two levels. One, do I change my career trajectory altogether, like Harsh and I did? Or should I just take a break and upskill myself or go back to school for 2 years, for those who have said that? Or just take a good break, like my friend, I don't know, the writer Gurcharan Das. He was a CEO of Procter & Gamble in India and then heading healthcare globally. He took a break from B&G at the top of his career and said, I'm going to take 2 years off and I'm going to write my book because writing is my passion. And then he continued to do some consulting work, board advisory and all. And now he's, of course, a full-time writer. But it started with a deliberate break. So pause gives you the breather, and break is when you quit, actually. So what are we looking at in terms of some strategies? Don't burn your bridges. Keep in touch with your people or manager of your company. Like Harsh was saying, he continuously stays in touch once a month with people from his previous organization. So you're visible all the time. Post, some articles and say, you may find this of value. Most people appreciate you thought of that, right? And so now is the time, once you realize that there are possibilities in life and you become this possibilitarian, go back and look at your triggers. Why you took a break? Why do you need a break? What were your triggers? And some of you are already on a break. What were your triggers? And now what do you want to do? Of course, we can support you in different ways to truly anchor the direction you wish to take. So now, is this enough? Knowing the fact that you need a sabbatical, what happens after? What do I do? So Harsh, I'm going to let you answer that question.
Sure, right. So look, what we discussed a lot in the last half an hour, some of you may know it, some of you may have got some new insights. But the key things, if you know all this, when you have all this awareness, what are you doing with this awareness, right? Awareness itself is not enough. You can gain a lot of knowledge, wisdom by reading books, listening to podcasts, watching videos, but what do you do after that? That is the key, right? I think awareness has to lead to some form of action. Otherwise, nothing will change for you. So for a lot of people, you said, I'm thinking about a career break, but you're not taking the decision, right? So that's the thing, right? If you don't take decisions, if you remain indecisive, nothing will change for you. So post this webinar, I want all of you to go back and think like, what is holding us back from taking that decision? Or how can I plan for the decision at some point so that I actually take a break? Otherwise, I'll keep on thinking all the time, should I take a break, not take a break? You'll always be in this sitting on the fence mode, right? So being aware is one thing, that I know all this about career break, pros, cons, duration, what avenues available to me, how it will benefit, but what next? I now need to accept, yes, I need to take a break, or I don't need to take a break. I need to accept my current situation context, and I need to acknowledge whether a break will be helpful for me or not. And then take a decision, take action accordingly. That is a key, right? Change will only happen when you take action and decisions. It will not happen if you just read books, listen to webinars, listen to podcasts, and do nothing about it. So that's the key, right? So I'm going to share some questions with all of you. These are the questions we discussed through the session today. And I think we'll share these in the chat as well. You can go and take a note of it and go back and reflect on these questions. And I'm going to read out to you. And these questions should help you decide whether a career break is the right thing for you or not, and how should you go about it. So here are the questions, right? First is, if you're thinking of a career break, what is your trigger? We spoke about some of the triggers: stagnancy, plateau, not happy. Think about what is my main trigger. Now, that will lead that's a strong question, because that will tell you whether it's something you have to consider or not. If the trigger is not strong, the action will not be, the response will not be strong, right? That's first. The second is, if you want to take a career break and financial insecurity is playing in your mind, how can you plan for it? How can you budget for it? How can you keep financial dependency out of the equation and out of the decision-making process? That's the second question you should go back and think. The third is, how long should a break be? And all of you have given us responses, right? But you go back and think, okay, based on where I'm situated in my career today, what I want to achieve, should it be a few months, should it be a few years? What is the right timeline? Give it some thought. It should not be just an answer, but a well-planned response. So it could be a pause, it could be a sabbatical if a company is offering, or some of you may say, no, I want to quit, take a break and then start something new. Either of it will work depending on your unique situation. The fourth question is, while knowing all this, is there any other fear which is holding you back from making that decision, or even saying, yes, I need a break or not need a break? That's also a decision. A yes is also a decision, a no is also a decision. But what is holding me back from taking that decision? So that's a fourth question. The fifth question is about, if you have to take a break, what are some of the things you want to do in that break? That's, again, it could be, I want to take a pause, I want to reflect, I want to make a career plan, I want to pursue a hobby, I want to travel, I want to take care of my family and my own self, I want to network, I want to upskill, I want to educate. Could be any of these. What exactly you want to do? Think about 2-3 things which you want to do during that break. So these are the questions. We'll share in the chat box. You can take a note, go back and reflect. First, I would suggest do a self-reflection. If you want, you can discuss with some colleague of yours, some partner of yours, and so that they can cross-question you, challenge your thinking, and you can come up with some answers which can help you take that decision whether you need a career break or not. So I hope this discussion has been useful. I mean, we have shared a lot of our insights, a lot of our experiences. Take what is relevant to you. Some of you may say, I've heard all this before, that's fine, but you are still at the same point of decision making, right? So what can help you move ahead, and then see how can you take an action or a decision in the back of it. So that brings us to the end of discussion today. We have some pre-submitted questions. We're going to look at that first, Anita, right? And then we're going to pick up some questions. So what I would recommend is, while we are looking at some of the pre-submitted questions, why don't you pose your question in the chat box, and we'll try to answer as many questions as possible over the next 10 to 15 minutes. Right. So I'm going to take the first question, and these are first we'll look at the pre-submitted questions. We're keeping names aside just for the sake of confidentiality. The first question was, how much time or how long the break should be helpful? I think we addressed this question. It's very individual, very specific. Yeah. Pause, sabbatical, quitting, all these are options you have to take. It's not for us to decide something. For you have to go back and think, what is the right break based on what I want to do in the break. I think that's the first question. Second question is around financial. Monthly expenditures, EMI, are the biggest roadblocks. Yes, we know, we acknowledge it. You have to also acknowledge it. But how can you still work with that? Knowing that I have an EMI, monthly expense pay, how can I plan my finances better? And break need not be that it has to happen today. It could happen 6 months, 1 year, 2 years down the line, does not really matter. But how can you plan financially? Just like you do any other financial planning, you need to plan for it. Otherwise, it will not happen. This financial challenge of EMIs and expenses will always be there.
So I can add to that, Harsh. I was coaching some clients on their careers, and she said that she had a fabulous job in the public service, and she decided to study to be an IAS officer, and that meant 3 years of study. But while she was studying, she continued to take contract work and continued to work while her husband supported her. She said, I wanted to be financially independent, to have my expenses, and even run some household expenses. And so 3 years, and now she's finished it, and now she wants to jump into the career, and I'm coaching her on, building her new narrative, her new profile, how she should present herself, because she said she feels that she's had a gap. And the whole idea idea is, if you have that feeling that you have the gap, you cannot present confidence to the to people at the interview or to your network. So with all the education, she felt that she has this gap that she needs to fulfill. And so we're working towards building her confidence and self-esteem to make sure that she understands that life is a continuum. She has so many achievements, and the fact that she studied for 3 years is going to hold her in good stead for a very, very long time.
Thanks, Anita, for that. And I think the next question is somewhat interrelated. These are actually 3 questions in one question. I've already taken a career break by giving resignation. My questions are, how do I restart after 6 months? That is, I'm planning to start work again after January 22. So as I said, if you have 6 months ahead of you, then first use a way to understand what you want to do next in your career. That's the first thing. Get some clarity around that. 2 is start building your network outside your industry, outside your company, previous company. Start networking. Think of what are the new skills which may be required in your industry, whichever industry you are targeting, and start working on upskilling yourself. Make sure you take care of yourself. It's important that you use this time to become more resourceful. Keep in touch with your previous employers, managers. There could be some new opportunities which are coming up. Search for returnship opportunities. Company, as I said, there are a lot of companies today offering the returnship. Search for those programs. Each program will have specific criteria. Some say a break means 6 months, some say it's 2 years. So depending on company to company, there will be a lot of opportunities which open up for returnship. Look out for freelancing work, consulting work, which you could do depending on your domain and expertise and experience. Start thinking of are there certain freelancing opportunities you can explore. Anything else you want to add on this?
I think you covered quite a bit there. So no, nothing yet at this moment.
Okay. So second part of the same question was, what are the specific points I need to consider while preparing for the next job? And I think Anita touched upon it. It's a new narrative, right? How did this break help me evolve as a person, as an individual, as a professional? I think that's the key. It's not that I took a break. I did a lot of things during the break. Right? Even if you're taking care of a family, that's an important task. When you're taking care of family, it is building a lot of your skills. It's building empathy, it's building communication, it's building time management, it's building conflict management. So many things you're doing actually at home when you're sort of managing a family. So it helps you to build yourself, right? So Anita, you want to touch upon that narrative part actually?
Yes. You see, we all have a story, like we said. It's what story are we telling ourselves? How do I consider a break? Is a break positive or negative in my mind? If it's positive, you'll hold your head high. But if you feel that, you will be feeling small like that. We don't want that. The new narrative is about your version 2.0, because you are growing. You're not going anywhere. As he said, even if you're taking care of a parent, you've got so many skills to share. I have been working with a lot of women, professional women, in a program to get back to work. In fact, I'm also working with a lot of COVID widows right now, voluntary work, to get them back to work. They're they're in pain, they're in anguish. They have to look after the kids, but they had worked before, and they don't see anything about themselves, that how they brought up the children, taking care of their families. They're uprooted. One was an army wife, how she traveled and readapted 7 homes, 7 cities, kind of a thing, giving absolutely no credence to what she was able to accomplish. And I'm working with them to kind of accept who they are. You see, when Harsh talked about awareness, one of there's a trajectory to action. One is acceptance that I am this, not what other people tell me, but that deep understanding, who am I, what makes me tick, what makes me who I am, what are my strengths, what are my values. And once you know that and you you accept the situation, then you have choices. And when you have choices, you have abundance in your mindset. And of course, you may not know which choices to take, but that's where coaches and mentors come into space to help you. And then you can take corrective action. So it's awareness, to acceptance, to choices, to action. And in this process, yeah, the heart, mind, and the gut are all included.
True.
But if we only focus on what I accomplished at work, then we have narrowed ourselves from 100% to maybe 50%. And why do we need to feel small? And that's the kind of work I'm doing with so many people, volunteering. And in our program, definitely we address the whole aspect of you, the whole you. And hence we called it conscious career choices, because you're going to make conscious choices with your career after knowing the through awareness and acceptance what direction I need to take.
Cool. Thanks, Nita. The next question, I think this question a lot of people have is that, what are the best practices to highlight the gap in my resume? Now, the first thing you have to say, this is not a gap, right? It's not that you stopped growing. It's not that you stopped learning. And that's the key thing to highlight, right? If you consider it as a gap that I did nothing in the break, then people will also see like that. But if you say, no, I took this break because I planned for it. I did certain things. And this is how it allowed me to grow. There is a story behind that break. And that gap has to tell that story. The story is not that my life stopped. No, I took a break from work, but I continue to grow as an individual. I continue to grow as a family. I continue to learn and evolve. So my learning and growth did not stop. I may not be working full time, but my life did not come to an end, right? So I continue to grow. That's the story you need to tell, and you need to be honest with that, right? A lot of people try to hide it or feel ashamed. That's not the point. And that's what Inta said, that you own it, right? Yes, I took a break. There was a reason for it. I needed a break and I took it. And this is what happened during the break. This is how I'm a better person now. I have more clarity. I have more confidence. I have better skills, whatever it is, right? Let's say you want to travel. Traveling would allow you to develop so many skills, from cultural sensitivity to working with different nationality. All this could happen during that time, right? Different experiences. So that story has to come out. Now, if you tell me some companies don't accept it, then maybe that is not the right company for you also, because if the company is not sort of giving importance to the fact that as a senior professional, you took time off to plan, then maybe you have to think that, is this the type of company I want to work with? And that's a question you should know. And I agree, there is sometimes there is a bias against breaks or not, but there are a lot of companies which are open to it. If you tell the story honestly and owning it and confidently telling it, and not looking at it as a gap, right? That's the thing. It's not a gap. During that time, I did a lot of things, and I want to highlight that. And there's a genuine reason behind it, and be honest with it. I think that's how I would say. Look at the gap. We'll take one more question from this pre-submitted, and we'll jump into the question. Trying to figure out if this is the right time. We have already covered. Not able to take a decision, career break for exponential growth. Today we have shared you those questions. Go back and reflect on those questions. Hopefully that those set of questions will help you make that decision, or will give you all the right information. Now, if you still don't take a decision, that is up to you. See, a lot of you will be afraid of taking decisions, but remember that indecisiveness does not help you. And please remember, yes or no, both are decisions. You can say, no, I don't want to take a break, and that's perfectly fine. Or you can say, no, I need to take a break, not to plan for it, what time, how long, finance, and then let's work towards that. Either ways is fine, but don't be indecisive. That's the key thing, right? And if you need any help, you can connect with us. We can get on a quick chat. The course is obviously there for all of you. How to ensure finances are managed, I think we have already covered. So, okay, let's look at some of the live questions. So we have got broadly most of thematic questions we saw, of course.
So Pallavi is saying, how do I choose which direction to build momentum in during the break? You want to answer that?
How do I choose which direction to build momentum? To Pallavi, you should go back and think, what do you want to do during the break? Look back, what is the trigger? Right. Let's say if your trigger was, I'm not finding this job very meaningful. So think about what will add meaning to my work. What is the type of work I want to do which will give me meaning, right? And then start working towards that, right? If your reason was no, I was stuck, I was not seeing growth, then go back and reflect. What does growth mean to you? Is growth always in terms of roles and responsibilities, or is it money? Is it better company? Is it brand? What is that growth meaning to you, right? And once you are clear of that meaning, then how can you align your whatever you want to do during the break towards that direction? So I think which direction to choose will come from a lot of your triggers. What is the trigger to take a break, and where you want to be at the end of the break. whether you are able to achieve that or there's a different thing. Don't worry of the end outcome. Yes, I want to get a job which will give me A, B, C, D, E. Now let's see how can I work towards that. I think that's the key thing. I think momentum you can also build by a lot of family support. Make sure that you have a buy-in from your family, discuss with your partner, other people, saying, look, I'm planning for this, so I need your support during these times, right? Because a lot of times, if you don't have enough buy-in, that the momentum gets killed because everybody's the social pressures is coming into your name, and you very quickly pick up a new job, right? So make sure you have a buy-in from your near and dear ones, at least people who matter to you most, so that you have that support, right? And I would say third thing important is also personal care, right? The more self-care you focus on, because typically we care about everybody else, but self-care is never on a priority list. So if you can spend some time in self-care and working on yourself, that can bring a lot of positivity and positive energy in you, which can help you generate the momentum, right? So I think those are a few things you can think of. I hope that answers your question. Pallavi.
We have another question which was written earlier by PC. Okay. Sorry about that. If you scroll up, you'll find it. I'm sorry about your.
PC, what will be your advice in case someone has taken a break to take care of old ailing parents, which doesn't allow time and energy to upskill, reskill, or network? I think that is, it's okay. I think it's a totally a known scenario that you have to take care of your parents, and there's no denying to that. Think about it while taking your parents. How did you grow as an individual, right? What did you learn during that process? Because that is a part of your skill building and upskilling. So skill building may not always happen formally through attending courses, right? There is so much learning happening when you're taking care of your parents, right? So how do you tell that story, right? Because whatever skills you develop, whether it is empathy, whether it is communication, whether it is compassion, those are relevant to workplace as well, right? So you can showcase those skills. And two is, I think, question, if you still want to do something, see how can you better manage time. It's sometimes we make busyness our lifestyle. So we think that we all the time busy. It's not happening. We will spend a lot of time on YouTube, Facebook and all, but will not do what is supposed to be done. So sometimes while you may have some primary care responsibilities, how can you squeeze in time? And time does not mean you have to spend hours. Maybe I will just start with 10 minutes only per day, and then gradually increase as I'm able to do that. So it's not that I have to immediately take out 2 hours from my day to do a course. No, maybe I'll start 10 hours, 10 minutes from a research, and then do an online course, which allows me that flexibility. So those are things you can think of. But
I can add to that. I have a client who said he's busy. He's very successful, don't get me wrong. But he says, I have an addiction, and the addiction was Netflix. So, and he had so many other, he was so intelligent and he wanted to do so much. And one of the big things we identified was he wanted to write a blog. So I said, so we had this conversation and I said, how could you integrate both Netflix and blogs? Is, writing blogs. He thought about it, and then he came up with the idea that if I write 10 minutes of blogs, I get 1 hour of Netflix. He kind of rewarded himself. And believe it or not, in a week, he had 2 blogs out.
Wow.
And it was a short blog. He didn't have to make it big. He spoke very clearly and precisely.
I think
all he did was time plan and also have that motivation of doing it at the same time. Now, in terms of time management, as you talk, in terms of caregiving, you're right. People don't need to be there all the time, but we can always ask for help and support. Find areas. There are a lot of organizations, charities that support elders and seniors, and they do it at very low cost as a way of giving back. There are organizations that have helplines, not helplines, but support, where people can actually, the seniors can talk to them and have conversations. There are some support groups for, like, say, cancer or, the disease they have. And they chat with each other, they share their stories. Nothing, let's say, morbid or something. The moderator finds ways to make them laugh, do some funny stuff. And so what happens is when you find these alternatives to keep the person who's sick engaged and keep them happy, it also gives you time, and your relationship with them changes, and your emotional stability changes.
So I think in a nutshell, what you should think about is, if you are compressed for time, what is the smallest action? What is that one step you can take? Like networking, you don't have to meet 10 people every day. But what is that? Who's that one person I want to make a call once in a week? Who's the one person I want to talk over the weekend? So that's where you start off. Otherwise, you will never have enough time.
True.
And the irony is, time is a finite resource, right? So at one point we say we never have time, but at the same time we also feel that there's a limited time. So I think that's how you should go about it. I think that's it. I don't see any more questions, but yeah, thank you so much for all those who have joined in. I know it's a Saturday, it's time to spend with family and friends, but thank you for taking time off. I hope you found this webinar useful. So in the chat box, we'll share with two things. I think we already shared. One is a list of 6 questions. Go back and use that for self-reflection and discuss with a peer or a partner or colleague. 2 is the link to a program which is launched in partnership with Naukri Learning. It's a free online course on discovering your career in a very conscious, deliberate, intentional manner. Do sign up and do share that link to any other person whom you feel may benefit from such a program. And that's really it. Any final thing?
Yes. Whatever we've talked about, the who am I will get addressed quite a bit in this particular program, which is being offered free through Naukri Learning. The models will get you to think and reflect. What direction can I take? Who am I? How can I manage? What are my beliefs that are holding me back? It will give you that a snapshot. It will open some windows for you. And of course, write to us if you have further questions of how you would like to take it forward. And we are here to help.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining, and have a nice evening. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay indoors as much as possible.
And Mega has shared the link to the course again, so if you'd like to copy it.
Perfect. Thank you so much, and have a great weekend.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.